So, once your parts are finished printing, what we're going to need next is some silicone, a set of measuring scales, an old tile, preferably flat and clean, a hot glue gun and glue sticks, some plastic cups for mixing, some super glue, some mold release spray, and some stirring sticks. So the next stage in our build is going to be securing the mold wall to the flat tile. We're going to do this using the hot glue gun and some hot melt sticks, preferably fast setting. We're going to allow ample time between completing this and the next stage of the build to make sure this is fully set. Once this is fully set, we can then secure the master pattern into the centre of the mould. This master pattern is an exact copy of any cast resin coasters we create. Therefore, it's important this is secured properly and central. We're going to use super glue on the back side of the coaster, sticking directly onto the tile. Alternatively, you can use the indents recreated in our model to use hot melt without raising the coaster up. Once these have set securely, after a good amount of time, we're going to begin mixing our two-part silicone. My silicone recommends a 100 to 10 ratio, or 10 to 1 for ease, so I'm going to mix 50 grams of silicone and 5 grams of hardener. From there, we're going to make sure these are stirred separately first before combining into one pot and stirring again, ensuring these are thoroughly mixed with no discoloration to either part. We want one solid colour with no visible streaks. Once the silicone's ready, we're going to pour this from the highest point possible onto the highest point of the mould, allowing it to flow downwards into the lowest. This is going to help us avoid air bubbles in the mould, which would otherwise ruin our coasters. Remembering, the key part with all moulds is that any imperfections will be replicated on every part made from it. Once this is done, we're going to leave these to set for the recommended time. My silicone recommends a setting time of 12 hours and a demold time of 24 hours. So I'm going to come back tomorrow, demold these and begin to pour some resin and set our bottle caps. So, some time's passed, and now it's time for us to prepare our bottle caps, ready to pour into the mould and cast our coasters. So the great part about this is, you've had to gather 7 bottle caps, which probably means you've had a bit of fun doing that. And now, we need to stop these rising up when we pour the resin. So to do that, we're going to add a white resin, which is fast setting, in the back of these to weigh them down. This is going to stop air gathering in them and stop them rising to the top of our mould. So to do this, I'm going to use a fast set 6-minute cure resin, which is a 2-part equal mix, 50-50. So we're going to again use 2 separate pots for part A and part B. We're then going to pour these into a C cup and mix thoroughly. We want the mixture to be constant with no streaks again. From there, we're going to take care and pour these into the back of our bottle caps and allow time to set. As the video progresses, you'll see how the colour changes from like a brown clear to a white solid. Be careful when these are curing, as these can become very hot. Now that the resin in the back of our bottle caps is fully cured, we're going to take the same mould release we used previously with the silicone and spray the inside of the mould we've created. This is going to stop the resin from sticking and allow us to remove the final part. From here, we're then going to use the clear epoxy and mix this as per the quantities on the bottle. Mine is 100 of part A and 45 of part B, however yours might be different, so make sure you read the spec. Again, we're going to use 2 separate pots, stirring before mixing in the third pot. The third pot should be mixed thoroughly, ensuring there are no streaks and an even colour is throughout. We're then going to use and pour a thin layer of this into the base of the mould first. On top of this, we're going to place the 7 bottle caps that you've chosen. These can be either random, same, or it's totally up to you. From there, we'll take the remaining epoxy, pour this on top of the bottle caps, ensuring that all corners are filled thoroughly. We want to try and avoid trapping any air bubbles here, as any air bubbles will be seen through the top of the coaster. Once we've poured our resin and are happy with the fill, we're going to use a lighter to burst some of the air bubbles that have now risen to the surface. By doing this, we get a nice clear finish to our coasters. This is the final stage before the wait to demold. So 48 hours have now passed and our coaster is ready to demold. So it's sat in the mold, it's gone nice and hard on top. And the first thing we're going to do is work each edge loose around the circumference of the coaster. Once it's fully loose, we're just going to push and it's going to gently slide out of the mold. Looking at this coaster, there's a few extra air bubbles that I wouldn't have ideally wanted, but obviously in the last step we used the lighter to pop some of those. So what I would normally do is go back to my coaster a couple of times for the first 4 hours and just make sure that any extra air bubbles like these have risen up, we're going to pop. So one I made earlier, like this one, you see, that's one that I've been back to a couple of times. It's got no air bubbles in the surface, it's got a nice shiny gloss finish, so that's what we're aiming for. So now we've demolded our coaster, we're happy with the cast, we've got a nice surface with no air bubbles. The last thing I do before I give these away to people or use them at my home is to add some sticky pads to the back of them. So I put one at each of the pointed edges just to ensure a nice flat surface is still there. And the reason we add these is to stop them sliding on a flat surface or a slippy surface such as glass or a bar can on the top. I hope you've enjoyed this video and you followed along at home. It would be great to see some pictures of your resin coasters and how they turned out in the comments down below. Or if you've got any questions or advice, feel free to reach out and I'll be doing my best to answer these. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you in another video soon. Bye bye.